So today we're going to quickly go over how to make a box and whisker plot on our graphing calculator. So we're going to use this example that I have here. So we have ages of people that backpack and age of people that go on a rafting trip. So what we're going to do is just use this data to create a box and whisker plot. And there's actually two sets of data here, just so we're aware of that. So I'm going to highlight one of them in yellow. So the backpackers will be, I'll actually do that in red just so we can better match the picture that I'm going to draw on a calculator. But we have two data sets. We have one in red, right? We have age of backpackers, and then our other data set is the age of people on a raft, which they've just called rafters. So again, I'm just highlighting so you can see that there's two different data sets here. We're going to make a box and whisker plot of each of them so you can see. So the first thing that we need to do is enter the data into a list. The way we do that, we hit Stat, and we choose option 1, which is Edit. And then we get to this screen here. So we're going to enter the data one at a time. So I'm going to do the backpackers first. So 24 was the first age, and then 30, 30, 22, 25, 22, 25. Then the next age was 28, and then we had 30, 25, and 27. So I've entered that data. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 12 data points, and that's how many I've entered. So once we've entered the data, I usually go back to the home screen. So by hitting second and then mode, which really means quit. And we need to turn on and set up the box and whisker plot. So the way we do that, we hit second and then y equals, which brings up our stat plot menu. You can see here right now all of mine are off and stuff like that. You can go into them and individually turn them on or off. I like to make sure that all of mine are off except for the one that I'm going to use. So if one of yours was on, you would just go into it, scroll over and turn it off and hit enter. But once you have them off, you just choose a plot. So I'm going to choose plot number 1. So first of all, we need to turn it on. So you would move your cursor so it's blinking on the word on, and then you hit enter to confirm that you want to turn this on. Now, type of graph that we're going to make, this is where we select our scatter plot. I want to choose this option right here. This is our box and whisker. We don't want to choose anything that doesn't look like a box and whisker. So this is the only picture that looks like our box and whisker. So we scroll over to it till it's flashing, and we hit enter to confirm that. The next thing we need to enter into our calculator is where we have the data stored. So I put the backpackers into my first list. If that was different or wasn't there, remember L1 is right above the number 1. It's in blue on my calculator. So I hit the blue button and then the number 1, which means it's going to come up as L1. Now the frequency, you should always leave this as 1. So that's the only thing we have to do to turn on and set up our box and whisker plots. Now the second thing we need to do before we actually make a picture of it, like if I were just to click graph here, I might not actually see anything. So we need to scale our window. So what do we want to see? So with that, what I recommend doing is finding the minimum and maximum value using one variable stats. So we did this in a different video on how to calculate the mean and standard deviation using your calculator. But the quick reminder is we just go to stat, we scroll over to calculate, and we choose the one variable statistics. Our data is in L1. This frequency list we can leave blank. But the reason I'd want you to do that is because it will tell you your minimum and your maximum values. Because that can really make setting your window really easy. So if I want to actually see a picture of my box and whisker plots, I'm going to go to hit the window button. So right now we're setting up our window so we can see it. The X minimum should be our lowest data point. So our lowest data point was 18. So I usually round down to give myself a little extra room. My biggest data point was at 30. So I'll round that up to 35. Remember that box and whiskers only use the horizontal axis. So we just have to change our X's. Now I can hit graph and I should be able to see that box and whisker plot. The other way that you can get the window set up, if you don't want to do it by yourself, just using the minimum and the maximum values, another easy, quick way to do it is to go into the zoom menu. And option 9 is zoom stat, which will automatically set the window based off the data that you've entered. So either one of those is fine. So that's how you make a box and whisker plot. We have that here. If I hit the trace button, you can go over the 5-number summary. So like the median was 25, which is what our calculator got before from our 5-number summary. We can see the first quartile, the minimum value, the third quartile, and the maximum value. So as a quick summary though, I do want to go and make another box and whisker plot of the rafters. Just as another reminder, we'll go a little bit quicker. But what you can also do is you can add more than just one list of data. So if I put the backpackers into L1, I can put the rafters into L2. So I'm going to enter that data. And once I have that data there, I'm going to make a box and whisker plot of just the rafters. So what I can do is once I've entered the data, I go back to the stat plot menu. And plot 1 is already being used for the backpackers, so I could just turn on another plot, like plot number 2. So I turn it on. This plot, I do want it to be a box and whisker, so I'm going to go over and scroll and highlight the box and whisker. But in this case, the data that I want to graph isn't in L1 anymore. I put the rafters in L2, so I'm going to change this to L2. The frequency list always stays at 1. Since I highlighted this one in blue, I'm going to make the box and whisker also show up in some sort of blue color. Now then I need to set up my window, and again I could go to the window menu and use my maximums and minimums, or I could just use the zoom stat option. We can see that we get a second box and whisker plot. Now in some cases, if you don't like it showing right up on that axis, I can go change my Y scale just to make it taller. Like if I make it taller, it'll probably change where it places those. So you can change the vertical axis just so you can move the spatial setting of the box and whisker plots. Let's say make a box and whisker on your graphing calculator.